Hello, my name is TC, and coming off my contact list series, I wanted to create something that provides the message of what we're going through and where we're heading. To do this in a way that took my personal experiences of life and providing that in a very creative sense or understanding that could actually shape, frame, or even provide new ideas and concepts that aren't easily put out there in collective discussions. So it was my motivation to really make a difference to put that out there. Seeing how far it has come, I don't have the time to edit it into a documentary. I don't have a team to support me to bring this out into the world. Everything that I'm creating, it's going to be out of my own hands, unfortunately and fortunately. So with all that said and done, I can't be everything and I will never be everything. And even this video itself is my attempt to express some ideas and thoughts, but I will never be able to take this as far as very well is necessary to make a collective impact. So for this, as with all my other videos, these were these short little momentary expressions so that these ideas can live on without me being bagged down by editing or any extra effort that aren't really aligning with my path as an artist, as a creator being. So without further ado, I'd like to dive into a number of different topics. The first being the shifting of the weather. Now, for the past, I'd say 8 years, I've been herbiting. And this allowed me to get really in touch with the natural cycles. These natural cycles are the seasons in their own right, but at the same time too, the changing of the weather and how these 2 week sort of patterns are gradually shifting into their own patterns that are now conducting to be what is seen as the polar vortex or changing of temperatures. Now, this weather over time has only brought forth a number of different options for the individual. It is either going to be affecting much of the food supply, just as much as it will affect the individuals, the climate, and as much as the damage of all and any natural disasters that could cause from such a climate shift. And now this shift itself is not due to a warming, but because of the sun's natural cycle of going through its cosmic journey, it has garnished more of a cosmic influence, meaning that the sun's solar capacity and what it gives through our electromagnetic system that we all embody, we are being met with incoming energies. These energies, frequencies, essences of light, however you want to describe what it means to see subtle waves or what it means to accept that waves that we cannot perceive are still existent. These waves are just as much as a conduit for what is existing as a living universe. And if this living universe traverses itself, much as the sun traverses its journey, and as we traverses along the sun's journey, these fractal options are just as much considerate that these types of forces and influences play a role. Just as much as having a bunch of planets on one side opposing the sun, when you have these oppositions, you get this, what is decided as gravity, but is more magnetic pullings and substance. For example, how the moon can have an effect on the tide is very much the show of the flexibility and fluidity of the water, as well as its influence on its pull of magnetism. Because of these concepts, if the moon bears so much weight that it in itself can have a pull to bring forth what is these tides, then that of much higher magnitudes can very much express itself in the world through these larger planets, and even the sun itself, providing the main seasons in which we experience. But one thing I have been noticing is that not only are we going through a change, but many other planets out there. And these shifts in change is very much cosmic related, meaning that their source is not from the sun, and it's not from the planet, and it's not from the human. It is far beyond that, and it is reaching to a level that we may never understand in this lifetime. And I think we learn more about it as we develop it, but I think many of the sciences, the models, and the practices in which we actually try to understand our reality are not only flawed, but limited to the perspectives that created them from the time span and the era that they originated from. And I think moving beyond this are many ideas that are proposing how these larger cycles, these larger influences, not only affect us, but actually play a role that shifts our weather. Because if the sun is gaining a different momentum or energies to work with, and so that sun will then share that same energy with its inner electromagnetic bodies that are the planets. And us being one of those planetary bodies, we are experiencing some of these shifts, whether you're looking at this as cosmic rays, which influence and produce many of the clouds that are around us, or if you're looking at the streams or the energy that goes within the earth. If the sun is emitting energy and the earth is receptive to it, and if it receives it within the poles, then that poles itself absorb that electromagnetic energy and conducts it through an electric charge, in which it then allows itself to process through the body at many different areas, for each their own. Just as the world being electric in its own right, this electricity provides the juice that we can then bring life to many different objects. So it is up to us to make that difference, in which we can recognize that many of these influences we're partaking in. And as we bring awareness to that, then that can then change our outcome, so that we're not put into a position of helplessness, but one that uses the nature and the world around us to strengthen our bonds, to build a relationship with nature herself, so that we can understand what we're working with, not at the state of trying to control, but to adapt, to learn, and to even work beyond. So we work with the seasons rather than oppose them. For we're not here to fight off the winter, but to withstand through it through a harvest. And one thing I am noticing with all weather formats is that what has been seen as spring and fall are slowly disappearing. Noticed over many years, I've seen this gradual increase that has started from these basic upticks of high extremes to low extremes of 2-week periods that carry forth these pressures. And as the pressures shift, that's when the storms come in. But if we're giving more of a charge and these pressures, the streams that the pressures are emitting are changing and shifting, then in course we're seeing a change in jet streams, a change in weather patterns, a change in weather influence. This has done everything, including create the polar vortex to strengthen hurricanes and also lay waste to all sorts of other earth changes that are occurring globally. As with the butterfly effect, just the instances of a simple volcano erupting plays a role in releasing such gases that then allow a cooling effect to occur through this substances emitting all around through the atmosphere. So when we're working with all these different substances, you're ever increasing the variables that are always currently present. But how they affect one another is the simple domino effect that these weather systems are going to be shifting our society. Many of these society shifts include things such as roadworks, the way we connect with one another, but more drastic end of these include food supply, meaning that the food supply could be threatened due to the amount of frost that can continue up until the May and even June months, just as much as the ability to get extreme heat can cause wildfires on mountains that aren't normally common. This has also seen a shift to create various different twisters and tornadoes in mountainous areas, plateaus, ranging from my area, Pennsylvania, but all over the place. And I've been witnessing a lot of different weather and a lot of different reports over the last 8 years. And being able to recognize these cycles, I can see something is up and it will gradually continue. Even 8 years from now, we will see more of a presence of what I speak about, because these things, they are not something that you will see and prove tomorrow, but they're more about a wait and see, and then you can see based off your own observations and experience that this is what the case is. Whether you can say whatever is happening with the earth, when your backyard garden is receiving frost in May and June, you will have to do something about that. And if you want to see more solutions on that matter, please refer to another video actually I did called Greenhouse Thinking in the Long Spring. Because this concept is allowing yourself to take human innovation, such as the greenhouse, and utilize these methods to not only protect against these shifting times, but to allow against unseen variables which threaten the ability to easily grow crops. When you have stability and you have expectations that are met, these consistencies are what allow systems to hold strong. But as these start to drift, and ever more do these variables start to increase, we are now at a fate in which we are the ones who will have to take action. If the food supply is in threat, then it is the individual creating the backyard garden, connecting with farmers, farmers connecting with the individual, allowing themselves for the possibilities of providing opportunities of sharing acreage, or even farm stands, farmers markets, or even direct farmer to family options. these concepts and ideas, whether it's a mobile farm truck, a farm stand, a farmer's market, these all are the type of solutions which are going to continue to grow and to be the bridges that allow our food, the things that nutrients that bring us and nourish us, these things are going to be important. And as we start to see the crumbling away of these long held and promised systems, more of us are going to take action. More of us are going to become farmers. More of us are going to connect with those locally. And that will always be the answer. I find that when we are dealing with unforeseen circumstances, it's good to be prepared, much as the prepper's mind can put themselves in position for whatever comes their way. But when that is your weather, when that is your country, when that is the environment of the nature you are also participating in, then, and only then, do the solutions of previous generations seem to fall through the cracks to see how did we end up here and what can we do and what can we learn from the past to improve our situations currently. Many of the big agricultures, companies, and industries are always going to be at threat. Many of those who have supplied more a factory type setting or even process of their food supply are aware that they've taken steps to not only cut costs, but to allow innovation through the use of technologies of modifying the food so that it's easier to work with, so that chemical companies they've partnered with can continue to dump pesticides to make a bigger yield. But we understand that these high hopes that these companies have set for themselves to save the world have only harmed the world. And a lot of these practices are actually harming many of the local produces and local farms and local solutions, which are not only more substantial, but they have the depth and weight which the human soul can authentically feel and understand is something that is important to them. I'm sure, yes, there will be those who will be just as willing to eat whatever they consider a McDonald's burger to be. But at the same time, too, I find that more people are going to become aware of their own foods in their own backyards, in their own country, and by those who are grown locally. And then they will incorporate that food and not only grow it themselves, but to learn and rekindle the relationship that we once had with the earth. With this whole world being such a disconnect, and the changing in the weather, and the changing in all the food systems at threat, we don't need to sit in fear, but instead we can be emitters of solutions, emitters of change, and we can take the action through our own efforts to really blossom regardless of circumstance. As all humans, we have a heart of innovation. We have the keys of creation, and the very nature of the potential that each of us can harness will always take us and guide us. So each of us are our own along this journey, because some will deal with floods, others we're going to deal with droughts. All of this will change, from mudslides to mountain shifts, even earthquakes, tsunamis, and hurricanes. There will be a changing of what we understand as patterns as we see the pattern starts to blend. Even more so as the magnitude increases of many of these storms, of many of these impacts, of many of the short-term turnback of we can witness storms just dumping huge amounts through pressure changes, or the even concept that they can hold so much only to dump it all out. These storms themselves can not only increase in capacity, but destroy crops, destroy lands, and change the surface as we know it. So if we are going to overcome many of the difficulties that face us, that means we're going to have to invest our own efforts, our own energies, to co-create, to work with our community, and to find the answers necessary so that no matter what shifting weathers awaits us, the life we want to live, the food we like to grow, and the necessities of what makes our life matter will start to change. Our society and the way we connect with one another will start to change. And in doing so, many new solutions that are more ideal and considered more like common sense will be integrated. And that change, that trend, will usher in brand new ways in which we have relationships with food, with the locality, the community, and that of the weather. To understand that nature is not that to be controlled, but to be worked with, then and only then can we understand that we can adapt, we can grow, and even if we are giving the essence of even a mini ice age, the abilities as human beings that can overcome this are just as bright as the stars in the sky of a winter night. So with all this said and done, we've experienced many of this firsthand. We may not fully understand it, and we may not recognize the patterns, but if we can step back and see it as a whole, we can see the changing trends. And if we can put ourselves ahead of the time so that we're in a great position to act, if not sooner, for what is yet to come, then we can shine as examples to show others what is possible, to show others ways that we can offer solutions, as well as be able to not only talk and discuss and hope, but to take action, to live, and to embody. So without further ado, many blessings for what is yet to come, and I appreciate you tuning in. I don't know how much longer I'll be doing many of these videos, but I want to express some last-minute ideas that have been brewing over these weeks. As I've managed to harvest my own garden and take care of all my garden beds and harvest all the kale and everything, it dawned upon me the essence of time itself and that importance of efficiency and making a good effort. Because it's very simple and it's very easy to see many invested crops disappear. Even more so if those efforts and energies are more than just the crops that we need to survive. So let that sit with you, and I invite you, do your research, do more, and if you're not growing a garden or connecting locally to your farm or any other farmers, please start today. This summer season ahead of us, you're going to have plenty of opportunity. Please find your local farmers, find your opportunities. They will be your guiding light. They will be your sunshine. And you need to help these farmers just as much, so support them locally. Support them because they are the answers in which we can build a community that can provide, instead of a dependent system, something that thrives locally. These solutions are not without the efforts, energy, and time to invest them to become so strong that they can support many. So start simple and work your way up. All in all, day by day, I think each of us will find our way. So, as always, thank you for tuning in and stay true.